Hello friends, welcome to UGC EPG Pathshala. I am Dr. Saleha Jamal, Assistant Professor, Department of Geography, AMU, Aligarh. Today we are going to discuss about IUCN and Red List module which comes under the paper Environmental Geography. The learning objectives are first to define IUCN and IUCN Red List, list various IUCN Red List categories and problem related to categorization of Red List, then to describe benefits and uses of IUCN Red List and criteria A to E, then to describe status of threatened species, then next describe IUCN and India and IUCN Red List and India. Let's start with the introduction. The IUCN and IUCN Red List, the term IUCN stands for International Union for Conservation of Nature, which was established in 1948. It is an international organization comprised of over 1300 government and non-government members and relying on the input of about 16,000 experts. Its objective is to promote nature conservation and sustainable use of natural resources throughout the world. This organization also focuses on issues such as poverty, gender equality, sustainable business practices in order to address its core objective. To achieve its goal, the organization engages in fieldwork, data collection and analysis, lobbying and public education outreach. The IUCN provides knowledge and tools that enable and promote the sustainable development at a global level. The present headquarters of IUCN is located in United Kingdom. One of the historical works done by IUCN is its list threatened species of plants and animals, also famous by the name of Red List. It is also known as the Red Data List. The IUCN Red List system was initiated in 1963 and since then evaluation of the conservation status of species and subspecies is continuing on a global scale. The IUCN Red List is arguably one of the most useful worldwide list of species that area at risk of extinction. The Red List, established in 1964, provides the conservation status of plant animal species around the world. Its usefulness is based on its reliance on a number of objective criteria. The IUCN members determine the risk of a species extinction by utilizing criteria such as population size, subpopulations, the number of mature individuals, generation, the decline in population size, extreme fluctuation in population size, fragmented populations and habitats, habitat area and size, and distribution of the population. These rules have received international acceptance and have become one of the key decision tools in conservation biology for focusing attention on species of conservation concern. Threatened species are assessed as critically endangered and endangered or vulnerable, but extinct or non-threatened species are also assessed and listed. Besides extinction risk assessment, the Red List provides a plethora of useful information on each species assessed, including distribution, trends, threats, and conservation actions. The quantity and quality of this information allows the Red List to be used in multiple ways, such as to raise awareness about threatened species, guide conservation efforts and funding, set priorities for protection, measure site vulnerability, influence environmental policies and legislation, and evaluate and monitor the state of biodiversity. Next, here we are going to discuss the problem related to categorization of Red List. As far as the categorization of Red List is concerned, the IUCN has developed a Red List for classifying species of high risk at global level. That is, assessment will be made at global level. Now the question arises is that suppose a species of plant or animal might be in red list at global level, but locally it is not in the red list at national regional level. Thus categorization the species at regional or national level becomes a problem, because a list formulated at international level might not prove applicable to national level. Erroneous exclusion of species as threatened on either global or national level could lead to extinction. There were two solutions for the problem. First, to publish a IUCN red list which consists of those species of regional importance, or to publish a red list locally after assessing species extinction risk. Thus, it can infer that IUCN criteria for classifying threatened species in red list were constructed primarily for application on a global scale, and using the system at a national scale has the potential to be problematic. However, most conservation efforts are conducted at national levels, and hence there is a great demand for red list at the national scale. IUCN therefore supports and encourages national red list processes and recommends the use of a set of guidelines for regional application of the IUCN red list categories and criteria, with the objective of facilitating the exchange of information between national and global red list authorities. It is recommended that all assessments, national and global, should follow the global minimum documentation standards of the IUCN red list and the IUCN guidelines for application of IUCN red list criteria at regional levels. Now, the benefits and uses of IUCN red list. The red list data are a source of information that is essential to guide conservation efforts focused on species. Threat categorization themselves are key to guiding priorities for conservation investment among species, albeit necessarily along with other information such as cost and feasibility. Red list is not just conservative tool which classify the species in a category of a threat, but it also derives from the wealth of data collected to support these assessments that are published online in a searchable format. A major contribution of the red list assessment is the compilation of a rapidly increasing number of digital distribution maps of species, for example, of all threatened birds and amphibians. IUCN red list draws attention to the magnitude and importance of threatened biodiversity. It identifies and documents those species most in need of conservation. It provides a global index of the decline of biodiversity and provides a baseline from which to monitor the future status of species. It also provides information to help establish conservation priorities at the local level and guide conservation action. Moreover, the list is used in developing awareness about the importance of threatened biodiversity, identification and documentation of endangered species, providing a global index of the decline of biodiversity, and defining conservation priorities of the local level and guiding conservation action. Now, we are going to discuss here the criteria A to E. The International Union for Conservation of Nature, that is IUCN, uses several criteria to enter species in various categories. These criteria A to E are discussed now. First one, the criteria A. Population reduction in the form of either of the following: an observed, estimated, inferred or suspected reduction of at least 20% over the last 10 years or 3 generations whichever is the longer based on and specifying any of the following, that is direct observation and index of abundance appropriate for the taxon, a decline in area of occupancy, extent of occurrence and or quality of habitat, actual or potential levels of exploitation, the effects of introduced taxa, hybridization, pathogens, pollutants, competitors or parasites. A reduction of at least 20% projected or suspected to met within the next 10 years or 3 generations, whichever is longer, based on above criterias. Now, the second one is criteria B, that is the extent of occurrence estimated to be less than 2000 km square or area of occupancy estimated to be less than 2000 km square and estimated indicating any two of the following, that is severely fragmented or known to exist at no more than 10 locations, continuing decline inferred, observed or projected in any of the following, that is extent of occurrence, area of occupancy, area, extent or quality of habitat, number of locations or subpopulations and number of mature individuals. Moreover, extreme fluctuations in any of the following, extent of occurrence, area of occupancy, number of locations or subpopulations, number of mature individuals. Criteria C, population estimated to number fewer than 10,000 mature individuals and either, that is an estimated continuing decline of at least 10% within 10 years of 3 generations, whichever is longer, or A, continuing decline observed, projected or inferred in number of mature individuals and population structure in form of either severely fragmented, that is no subpopulation estimated to contain more than 1000 mature individuals. All individuals are in a single subpopulation. The next criteria D, population very small or restricted in form of either of the following, population estimated to number less than 1000 mature individuals, population is characterized by an acute restriction in its area of occupancy, typically less than 100 km square, or in number of locations, typically less than 5. Such a taxon would thus be prone to effects of human activities or stochastic events whose impact is increased by human activities within a very short period of time in an unforeseeable future and is thus capable of becoming critically endangered or even extinct in a very short period. The last criteria, that is criteria E, quantitative analysis showing the probability of extinction in the wild and at least 10% within 100 years, that was given by the IUCN in 2012. Now the IUCN Red List categories. The IUCN Red List of threatened species was created in 1964. This is the world's most inclusive record of worldwide conservation status of biological species. The species are categorized in 9 groups by the IUCN Red List. That is extinct. First one is extinct. A species become extinct when the last existing member of that family dies or no known individuals remaining. A species said to be taxon when there is no reasonable doubt that the last individual has died. A taxon is presumed extinct when exhaustive surveys in known and or expected habitat at appropriate times, that is diurnal, seasonal, annual, throughout his historic range have failed to record an individual. Survey should be over a time frame appreciate to taxon's life cycle and life forms. Second one is extinct in wild EW. Undoubtedly, the last member has died, but the captive member endures or a naturalized population outside its historic range. A taxon is extinct in the wild when it is known only to survive in cultivation, in captivity or as naturalized population well outside the past range. A taxon is presumed extinct in the wild when exhaustive surveys in known and or expected habitat at appropriate times, that is diurnal, seasonal, annual, throughout his historic range have failed to record an individual. Survey should be over a time frame appropriate to the taxon's life cycle and life forms. The next one is critically endangered, that is CE. The critically endangered species face an extremely high risk of extinction in the immediate future, extremely high risk of the extinction in the wild. A taxon is critically endangered when the best available evidence indicates that it meets any of the criteria A to E for critically endangered and is therefore considered to be facing an extremely high risk of extinction in the wild. The next one is endangered, that is EN. The endangered species are the species which faces a high risk of extinction in the near future. High risk of the extinction in the wild. A taxon is endangered when the best available evidence indicates that it meets any of the criteria A to E for endangered. It is therefore considered to be facing a very high risk of extinction in the wild. The next one is vulnerable, that is VU. High risk of endangerment in the wild. A taxon is vulnerable when the best available evidence indicates that it meets any of the criteria A to E for vulnerable and it is therefore considered to be facing high risk of extinction in the wild. The next is near threatened, that is NT, close to qualifying among the threatened species or likely to become endangered in the near future. A taxon is near threatened when it has been evaluated against the criteria but does not qualify for critically endangered. Endangered or vulnerable now, but it is close to qualifying for or it is likely to qualify for threatened category in the near future. The next is that is least concern, LC, low risk of extinction, does not qualify for a more at risk category. Widespread and abundant taxa are included in this category. A taxon is least concern when it has been evaluated against the criteria but does not qualify for critically endangered, endangered and vulnerable or near threatened. Widespread and abundant taxa are included in this category. The next is data deficient, DD. Insufficient data to generate an analysis, or in other words, not enough data to make an assessment of its risk of extinction. A taxon is of data deficient when there is inadequate information of make a direct or indirect assessment of its risk of extinction based on its distribution and or population status. A taxon in category may be well studied and its biology well known, but appropriate data on abundance or distribution are lacking. Data deficient is therefore not a category of threat. Listing of taxa in this category shows that more information is required and acknowledges the possibility that future research will show that threatened classification is appropriate. it is important to make positive use of whatever data are available. The next is not evaluated, that is NE, not assessed against the criteria. A taxon is not evaluated when it has not yet been evaluated against the criteria. Now, the status of threatened species. In 2004, IUCN Red List was the most comprehensive assessment of the global conservation status of threatened plants and animal species. Based on the assessment of 2004 IUCN Red List, there were 15,589 species listed as threatened. Of these, 2,866 are listed as critically endangered. 2 species of lichens were added to the IUCN. The first addition from the fungi kingdom, namely perforate reindeer lichen and boreal felt lichen. The 2012 IUCN Red List shows a sharp increase in the threatened, that is critically endangered or vulnerable species of various groups, vertebrates and plants. However, it should be noted that many more species were assessed in 2012 than in 2004. In July 2012, of the total, that is 63,837 species globally assessed, the IUCN classified 3,947 as critically endangered, 81 as extinct in the wild. In the lower risk categories, there were 5,766 species in endangered, 10,104 in vulnerable and 4,467 in near threatened species. Since the data regarding 10,497 species was not available and hence classified as data deficient, at threat are 41% of the amphibian species, 33% are reef building corals, 25% of mammals, 13% of birds and 13% conifers. The update to IUCN 2012 list has been released on 2nd July 2013. With this update, 4,807 species have been added to the IUCN Red List of 2012, bringing the total of assessed species to 70,294, of which 20,934 are threatened with extinction. Now, the Red List Index. The Red List Index is based on the IUCN Red List of threatened species, is an indicator of the changing state of global diversity. It defines the conservation status of major species, groups and measures trend in extinction risk over time. RLI have been calculated using changes in threat status of species in each of these groups. Currently, the Red List Index is available for 4 taxonomic groups only, those in which all the species have been assessed at least twice: birds, mammals, amphibians and corals. The Red List Index clearly demonstrates that the status of these major groups is still declining. An increasing number of national Red List indexes are now being used by countries to monitor biodiversity loss. Coral species are moving towards increased extinction risk most rapidly, while amphibians are on average the most threatened group. The next is the IUCN and India. India is known for its mega diversity because from the world's total land area of only 2.4%, it accounts for world's 7 to 8% of all recorded species, which includes more than 45,000 of species of plants and 91,000 of species of animals. The reason behind such a mega diversity of India is its physical features and climatic conditions that have resulted in a variety of ecosystems such as forest, wetlands, grasslands, deserts, coastal and marine ecosystems which harbor and sustain high biodiversity and contribute to human well-being. Globally, there are 34 identified biodiversity hotspots, and from among these 4 hotspots are found in India, namely the Himalayas, the Western Ghats, the Northeast and the Nicobar Island. India became a state member of IUCN in 1969. Though the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, the IUCN India country office was established in 2007 in New Delhi. IUCN India works with members and commissions to reduce ecosystem and species loss by providing the necessary tools and knowledge to value, conserve and use biodiversity sustainably, enhance governance and policy for better management of ecosystems and habitats, including protected areas, and address challenges related to poverty alleviation, food security and climate change. Now, the IUCN Red List and India. India has 988 species of IUCN Red List in 2015. India has added 15 more species to the Red List of threatened species in 2014. The list contains critically endangered and vulnerable species. These species include Himalayan red and brown bear found mostly in Nepal, Tibet, North India and North Pakistan. The pygmy hog is the world's smallest wild pig. They are relatively distributed in tall terai grasslands. Kondana rat is a nocturnal burrowing rodent that is found only in India, and their main habitat is tropical and subtropical dry deciduous forest and tropical scrub. Namdapha flying squirrel is a native of tropical forest and found only in Namdapha Tiger Reserve. Malabar civet is endemic to India and was first reported from Kerala. It is nocturnal in nature and found exclusively in Western Ghats. Most important threats include deforestation and commercial plantation. Kashmir hongul is a subspecies to red deer and native to India and are found in dense riverine forest, high valleys and mountains of the Kashmir Valley and northern Chamba in Himachal Pradesh. Red panda endemic to temperate forest of the Himalayas and are found in states of Sikkim, Assam and northern Arunachal Pradesh. So, here we come to an end, students. Hope you have understood about the IUCN and Red List. That's all for today. See you next time. Thank you.